Hi, welcome in, and today we're going to be working on some minis. these are a couple that I've started and a couple that, hi Ian, a couple that I've not started that I need to finish before the 29th, or by the 29th. Hi Selnar. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, thanks. This is one I've been working on. If you're new here, I can go over these minis real quick. This is Valavir Night Song, and I've been working on her for a couple weeks. I'm going to work on her today. This is my autofocus isn't working again. Okay, here we go. This is the Winter Elf, which I think I'm almost done with. I need to do some work on the cloak, but I'm almost done with her. This is Lashana Larkmore. And she is metal. The other ones have been plastics. The first one was a plastic. The Winter Elf is also metal. I also don't have a whole lot of stuff to do left on her. I've got a Kobold Sorcerer, which I don't have a whole ton to do, just lots of little details. And then my Goblin Bard, Wolvie Smilebreaker. She is a Hero Forge. I believe it's plastic. I'm not entirely sure. But she's got quite a ways to go. I want to base her really fancy, but I probably won't do that till next week. Last time I was working on this mini, which I've called Finished. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with highlights and shadows on her. I just did some basic stuff and called her done. Hey, thanks, Vicious. I also, for my limited palette, if you haven't been here before, I'll explain all that in just a second. I was doing a treasure chest, but it wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to, so I took the colors and shifted them a little bit and did this dire crab, which only took me like an hour and a half with drying times. Let me adjust my light real quick. There, maybe it won't try to focus so much. Now you want to play Crab Champions? Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know, I was talking about limited palette, and that is a challenge that is put out by the Reaper Challenge League every month. There are new challenges and things that, generally, for most categories, you only get to paint Reaper Minis. And I am just fine with that, since that is most of what I have. This is a Goblin Warrior Archer. That I'm going to start painting today. And this is another Goblin Warrior that has a spear thing. Harpoon, maybe? I don't know. That dire crab looks dope, though. Thanks. I'm really happy with it. I have another one that I did a couple years ago that is a similar... Excuse me. Was also done as a limited palette, but it is much more colorful. Alright. Let me get my palette out real quick. Forgot to do that. Okay. Let's start on one of the goblins. Do we want to do the archer or the spear guy? I'd do a poll, but I've not figured out how to do that. These are the two. The archer is for my... Cool, I'll start on that one. These are for my trio and monster categories. I have not figured out what which one is which, because we have not decided as a group. There were 4 minis in the box, and these were the least bent ones that I had. Mixing up my paint real quick. This green might be really bright right now, but I'm going to adjust it as we go. It might also be very transparent. Yep. So what I'm going to do is take my green paint and just mix more into the paint that I just thinned to make it a little more of a base coat consistency for me. And try that. If that doesn't work, I'm going to add a little bit of white, because white is very opaque generally, at least the one that I use. Oh, there we go. And it helps make things less translucent. Is the music still going? Or did I turn it down too low? Thanks, Ian. Oh, okay, I'll turn it back up. It was really loud, and then I realized that was just my computer volume. Could not hear myself. Is that better? Cool. Thank you for letting me know. This is a Bones Mini. It's a proprietary PVC plastic. At least this one is. It's a Bones Classic that Reaper Minis uses, and they've evolved in many iterations of this, which my light is not. Sorry, I'm trying to get my light adjusted because I realize I can't see this. There we go. There have been many different iterations of this plastic. These ones were the classic white. They now put some gray tint into the plastic to make it easier to see what you're doing. This, I didn't prime it, but I did a coat of Reaper's brown liner paint, which for some reason on these minis works just as well as a primer. Excuse me. The paint I use for the most part is also the Reaper Minis paint. It is a good mix of a texture I like out of the bottle, and it thins nicely if I need to. If anybody's got any questions, let me know. I'm gonna let that guy dry for just a minute after I do his legs and feet. His feet have just kind of mashed into the base here in the molding process. Okay, I'm gonna let him dry and start on the other goblin. Just since I have the same color out, I will continue to use it. This guy has an eye patch. I'm trying to figure out if I want to paint it some annoying color or be boring and go with black or brown. Oh, I missed a spot of the brown liner and it does not want to stick. Bones plastic is naturally hydrophobic, which means that it repels liquids and does not like to let me apply paint. But if you if you wash your minis beforehand and sorry, my brain is not Englishing today. If you wash the minis real well, it will sometimes prevent the repelling of liquids. And had I not thinned my paint, it might have not done that so much. I have a mark here for my hand, but I keep missing it. Nope, that's way too much paint. Another thing about the Bones plastic is you don't have to prime it. You don't have to put any liner on it or anything. A lot of people like to prime them, but you don't really have to. They are made to be painted right out of the plastic. Or blister pack. They do best with a good wash, and as long as you let them dry well, it will generally paint up pretty easily. I want to say welcome again if anybody else has come in late. I am painting some Reaper miniatures of various materials and sizes. And this is generally what I'll be doing, is painting, or I think next week I'm going to be working on a base for the Goblin Bard. Yes, this is a Kobold Sorcerer. I have another iteration of this same mini that I made in Hero Forge. For the new Pathfinder campaign that I am in. That is this guy. He's a Kobold Druid instead of a sorcerer, but he's a Storm Druid and does all sorts of lightning stuff. And again, this is another one that I made in Hero Forge. Alright. We're gonna work on her. Her hair is very shiny. I don't like that. And so I'm going to... I'm gonna take this blue here, Ezran blue, which is one of the Pathfinder colors from Reaper. and paint her hair, which might have been the same color I painted it already, but I shook it a little better this time, so it shouldn't be quite as shiny. If it is, I'll go in with a wash and some matte sealer and try to dampen that down. I really like this mini, but she gives me very strong Rita Repulsa Power Ranger vibes. Hey Ian, remind me later to get a command to tell what minis I'm painting. Thanks. I've got several different social medias for announcements and behind the scenes stuff. And then I also have a Discord server if anybody is interested in taking a look at those. Ian, if you could stick those in the chat, that'd be great. Thank you. My socials. It should be exclaim socials. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, no, there's just those two for now. Her cape definitely needed a second coat before I can do more on it. It's always important to get the underside of your mini. This is just for tabletop use, but especially if you're doing display or like contest work, you should definitely make sure you paint underneath the, I don't know if you can see it, paint under the edges of whatever you're working on, because I have heard that that is one of the first things that judges check, and it can be a big mark off if you don't do that. So even though it's difficult, take the time and try to get the undersides painted. Anybody have any questions for me? Oh, there was, this is bright turquoise. It is like my favorite color. It was one of their HD paints before they discontinued them, and some of the colors got revived in their Bones line, which made me really happy because literally one of my favorite colors that they make. Alright, don't have that one. Yeah, you'll have to pick it up, Selnar. It's really pretty. Blue, leaning blue-green teal sort of thing. This is where I'm at with her. Oh, I missed some sleeves, which I think are technically part of the skirt. So I'm going to paint it the same color. Usually for the challenge league, I'll paint to a little higher than just standard tabletop quality, and will generally paint the bigger minis to a higher quality. This, if I can get her unstuck, is my bust I'm going to be working on very soon on here. I have to have her done by the end of March, I think. She is from Ignis Arts, which is a company out of Poland that makes gorgeous busts. I've pretty much only got a base coat on her. And her eyes. Let's see if I can get it to focus on her eyes. Nope. Okay. Looking good. Thanks! I am very happy with her. I haven't worked on her in a long time, but I'm determined to finish her this month. This quarter. And then this is another mini. I don't even know if I can get her all on here. It was a ReaperCon exclusive to one of their meetup events. She's 110 millimeters. This one that I've got. And then she's got wings that slot in and make her... The other wing must be somewhere else. But she's got two wings about that wide on each side. So... And then she has a little otter companion, which is about the size of this wide. So it's definitely a huge project. I think I'm gonna take this lighter purple I have, the Wild Violet, and start doing some highlights on this elf. And probably Valavir if I can get it, if it is dry enough. So when I do highlights, I generally do a side brush instead of using the tip of my brush, which makes things like edge highlighting and similar techniques much easier. And basically, you want to do any of the raised areas that will catch the most light, which is also why I like to do a side brush, because it can catch those edges real fast. If I didn't have a time limit on these, I could spend forever going back and forth on highlights and shadows. But I don't have forever, so that really helps me get things painted in a timely manner. I do have another really big mini that I'm going to hopefully finish by the end of the year. It is a rock, a bird rock, not a rock from the ground. And it maybe has a wing that fits on frame. But I joined a group that is painting very large minis, and I will be doing that throughout the year. That's due towards the end of December. So if I can make space and whatnot, y'all will see me doing that. I will try to remember to pull it out next time so I can try to put a wing on camera to see, or at least give you a idea of how big this thing really is. Alright. There are... oh, I missed a spot. Some highlights on her cloak. I think she's looking quite Christmassy. Touch up her dress some. I mentioned ReaperCon earlier, and I realized that a lot of people may not know what that is. It is a convention held every Labor Day weekend, I believe, in Denton, Texas, at a hotel near their store and where they manufacture the paint and some of their minis. I haven't been, but from pictures and stories, it seems really fun. So it's just been a matter of time, because Labor Day weekend becomes very busy very quickly. So along with the bones plastic, Reaper has a couple of other materials that they use. The Bones Classic is quite bendy, so I can just bend that back and forth and it generally snaps back into place. If it's bent too long, you can use some boiling water and ice water to bend it back into shape. They also make Bones Black, which is a much stiffer material. It is also in gray. Then there is Bones USA, which is manufactured at their store in Denton, or warehouse, and then there is, I think they call it Reaper Master Prints. I could be very wrong on that. But it is a 3D printed resin material that is fairly new. And with each iteration of the plastic that they do, it gets so much more detailed. Like, some of their plastic minis are now as detailed as the metal, which a lot of people don't like to hear, but that's my general opinion on that. I'll kind of show you what I mean. So this one, hold on. This is a Bones Classic Mini. Pretty bendy, not as bendy as the elves, but she doesn't have a whole lot of striking detail. Her face is kind of smushed. This is a metal mini, which has a lot better detail. This is also a metal mini. You can see how things are very crisp. But you do get into mold line problems sometimes with any of these except the prints. I don't know if you can tell, but she has a line right here that goes right down her face. And generally I'll clean those, but I did not want to mess up her face since I really like the sculpt. And then this one is one of their 3D prints. Generally, they're pretty clean. Any of them will say the RMP USA on them, and you can kind of see where it was pulled off of the supports. Occasionally there will be a support or two left over, but not very often, I've found. So that's really cool, having watched their plastics develop for almost 11 years, which is how long I've been painting. I started on the Bones plastic since they didn't need much prep. Yeah, it is really neat, Ian. My husband got me into painting. I had been wanting to try it for a really long time, and then some things happened and I needed something to do to keep me out of the depression hole. So he bought me my first minis, and I took to it like a fish in water. And I've been painting ever since. Slide that out of the way so I don't get paint on it I don't want on it. Okay, Ian. Feel better. I'm sorry you're getting a migraine. I'll talk to you later. Reaper has been doing challenge leagues since I want to say 2021. It may have been 2022. Because a lot of people talk about their, I don't hear many people call it this anymore, but their shelves of shame, which is what I call mine, because I've been doing it for so long. And it's generally referring to the mass amounts of unpainted miniatures that they may have. And Reaper decided that they wanted a way to help people paint their massive amounts of minis. Or at least their massive amount of Reaper minis. And I think in hopes of that would encourage people to paint their not Reaper minis also. But I think it's a really fun thing. On the months that I finish, it gets me painting 8 minis a month. Because there are 8 monthly categories. Oh, I missed his arms. Whoops. There is the theme, which changes every month. There is a limited palette, which also changes every month. A player character mini, a monster mini, a duo and trio, which is where you work with 1 or 2 other people to have groups of 2 or 3 to paint the same miniature. A new mini category, which is any mini that's been released in the last 3 months, I believe. And a freebie section, which can be any mini. It doesn't have to be Reaper. The only thing that requires you to have Reaper paint are the limited palette, because they want you to kind of showcase what their paint can do. You get to pick 3 colors, or they pick 3 colors, and you get to pick within those categories. So like this month was blue, yellow, and green. And I picked a blue, a yellow, and a green. And then a black and a white, which are allowed. And you paint a single mini with just those 5 colors. You don't have to use black and white if you don't want to. You don't even have to use all of the 3 colors. You just have to show which paint you used when you submit. They used to do, you would get points for painting and submitting. Ooh, just a second. And they were doing raffles at the end of every quarter. Yeah, every quarter. And you could win prizes. And then in the last couple of years, they introduced gift cards. So you trade in a certain amount of points that you get for gift cards. And then this year they have switched entirely to gift cards. So I think it's a rate of 75 points to a $10 gift card that you can use on their website for anything, I think. I'm not real sure. It's new, and I've had a lot going on this last year or so, so I haven't been keeping up with it as much as I'd like to. But it's definitely a fun thing. If you paint and you want to try out a challenge, then head over to their Discord and hang out. Paint some minis. I'm not sponsored or affiliated by them in any way, by the way. I just really like the company and their miniatures and paints, and like to share all this with everybody. I think I'm almost done with this one. I need to do her staff. But I think other than that, I missed a big section of her skirt. So maybe I'm not. I hope y'all can see me on my face cam okay. I know my lamp is a little bit in the way. I've been messing around with a good place to put my face cam. Because when I had it on the sides of my face, I would lean down and you could only see my forehead. So Let's try to get underneath here. So as far as my tools go, the only things I really have strong preferences on that I can think of right now are brushes and palettes. I really like size 0 brushes. That's what this is a size 0. It is made by Rosemary & Co. I don't know if you can see that. It's a Kolinsky Sable brush, the Series 33. If you are in the United States, you can't get these specific brushes anymore directly from Rosemary & Co. But I've heard you can get them from other retailers, but I don't remember who they are offhand. I also really like Game Envy products, which I guess is another thing I have a strong-ish opinion on. Which I use their wet palette that they have, which is the Exemplar wet palette. I have a whole blog that I do reviews and I write up articles and stuff on when I remember to. And I can post that in chat in just a second, because I don't think I had that in my socials. There we go. That's the blog website. I generally try to do a monthly update or two, depending on how things are going. I think I'll be updating it a little bit more since I've started streaming. So I've been far more productive. Anyways, these are my handles, are hobby holders. They come in lots of colors, but essentially they are a stand piece and a handle piece that snap together. And then it fits most standard bottle caps. So like soda caps will fit on them. I know in some places, I believe in the EU, the caps are slightly different. But I think they've adjusted for that. I can't quite recall. But if you don't want something so small to hold on to, they also make these ergonomic handles, which the mini this pops out, the red part, and again, it's got a screw cap. This one has a plastic disc on it to make it a little bit bigger for bigger minis, but I find it works great for the smaller things too. I mentioned I use their wet palette. It, I think, is pretty great. They make brushes too, which I will show in just a minute, that I really enjoy. They make Artist Arsenal brushes, which I've used so much you can't really see much of the writing. These are also Kolinsky Sable brushes. I believe this is a 1. I can't really tell. It would be right there. And then, as of one of the more recent Kickstarters, they've made Phalanx Selects, a Phalanx Speed, and let me see if I can find it. A Phalanx Synth. So the Synth is a synthetic bristle brush for whatever you would use a synthetic brush for. I like to use them for base coating and stuff that I would be a little bit harder on the brushes. The Select is again a Kolinsky Sable, which in my opinion are just like chef's kiss of brushes. And then this is a domed dry brush. And that is those. As far as other palettes go, I like this weld palette. It's got 22 wells and a lid that will keep your paints wet for a little while at least. And then I also like these really cheap plastic ones that have 10 wells for when I'm just doing a quick paint job. No, that's my cat Finn. Finn, say hello. No, oh, she's gonna lean on my head and make this very difficult. Oh, hi. She says hello. Don't get on the desk. She's not allowed on the desk. She steals things. I think that green I just used to try to put shadows down was not quite the right green. So I'm going to use a different one. This one is Arco Green. And I'm just gonna use it. Oh, look. Thanks for the follow. If I have things set up right, you'll have to wait about 10 minutes before you can chat. It's to keep the bots down. This that I'm working on is a goblin from a pack of Pathfinder Goblin Warriors from Reaper Miniatures. Not sponsored, not affiliated with any of these companies I talk about. I'm trying to get some better light for you. Everything is in the way. There we go. That might help. And now I'm going to pull out some brown to start doing his armor. I'm going to start with this reddish brown called Auburn Shadow. All these paints and minis that I'm using right now are from Reaper Miniatures. I also really like the Pro Acryl paints, or Pro Acryl, or I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but they have a similar consistency as the Reaper paints, and they come in fun colors. There aren't as many of them as there are Reaper paints right now, but they're constantly putting out new colors and different kinds of paints. They've got mediums and paint and transparent paints. They might have some technical paints, I guess, is more or less what I would call them, where they're not really a paint, but they're more of a paste, so you can make bases. Another goblin. I'm gonna give them matching armor for ease of painting and save a little bit of paint. This guy looks like he is wearing a crop top, but I can't really tell. right there, that just looks like stomach. Right in there. So I'm gonna paint it like a crop top. Why not? There we go. I think I'm gonna paint his bow. No, I'm gonna paint his arm wraps the same color as his vest thing. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. It really means a lot. I know the waiting to chat is annoying, but like I said, it's to prevent bots as best as I can, because usually it's me and one other person modding. And right now my mod has a migraine, so it's just me. If I didn't mention earlier, these holders I'm using are called hobby holders. And this bar on the left here, this white bar, is for stability. Generally, you'd hold it like that to help stabilize what you're painting, but I hold it lots of different ways and find it works just as well for me. Basically, it helps reduce my shaking and whatnot. I'm hoping by next week I will have had some time to pick a good spot for my face cam, so there's not all these wires and lamps in the way. I'm trying to figure out a second day during the week that I can stream that might work for more people. But I have not settled on anything. So if anybody has any input, I will gladly take that. Like the day of the week, a time, both. Now I've got cat hair everywhere. Okay. So I just got a bunch of paint on his arm that I don't want there. I don't know if you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clean, damp brush and just keep fidgeting with it until it goes away. Yeah. I want to make his eye patch an obnoxious color. But he's already kind of an obnoxious green. So if anybody has suggestions, I've probably got it. I'm going to use this saddle brown for the weapons, handles, and the bow. I'll darken this down with a wash later. And if anybody has requests for types of music, I don't really have control over a lot of it because of what is royalty free and available to me right now. I will take suggestions. Okay, let's paint this guy's bow. I'm just now noticing there are little metal bits, or what could be metal bits, on the tip of his, either tip of the bow. And I will go back and paint that a different color later. I think next week I will try to come up with what I'm painting for next month, because I don't expect these to take that much time to finish up, and I will get a lineup for y'all and go from there. And then I'm also going to be working on a base for a mini next week. It might help if I decide what I want to do with said base, but I need to finish up the mini before I can really get a good idea on what I want to do. This is how this one looks so far right now. I'm gonna work on my Hero Forge mini. She doesn't have a lot left. She's mostly got her drum and then some touch-ups and a couple of other details to do. She's the one I'm going to be working on the base for next week, so I want to get it finished. I've got 3 other Hero Forge minis. I'm painting one for each of our party members. This is our bard. Her name is Oldie. She's a goblin, obviously. She's pretty cool. And then I showed this one off a little bit earlier. He's a kobold druid. And I'm going to take the spell effect from a WizKids Beholder mini and make him shoot lightning out of his hands. And then I've got Halrath, who is a half-elf, I want to say ranger. I can never remember. He has a bird. I've got quite a bit of ways to go on all of these. And then this is my character. Her name is Moira. She has a little paint palette on her belt. I don't know how well you can see that. She is a dwarf fighter. And that is my Kingmaker party that I am in. I'm thinking about doing some sort of freehand on her. On the top of her drum here. But I'm not sure what I want to do yet. If you're new, I just want to say thanks for the follow. I really appreciate it. And I think you can probably chat now if you want to. And this drum, I don't know if you can tell, has lots of teeny tiny details, so that'll be fun. I'm gonna go with fun. Mixing up some more paint. Going to touch up her hair. I haven't decided. I think I'm going to, instead of a traditional highlight, like a blue or a gray that I would do. I don't like to do white highlights for black hair. I will do the pink that I streaked her hair with in the front that I'll show in just a second. She has a big bright pink streak right there. Even her tail has a little pink streak on it. Paint her drumstick. And I think I'm going to mix some of that brown that I did on the other goblins into this. And just kind of wet blend it. So it makes this neat reddish brown that's not quite as red. I'm going to go back and do the shadows in her ears a different color later, because I do not like that green that I used. I'm just looking through what paint I have handy. I'm going to take this orangey red color called Carrot Top Red to start the base of the wood on the drum. As soon as I paint over this mark that came from somewhere. Now I'm going to thin this out a little bit more, the orange, so that it doesn't clog up all the little details she's got in her drum. And this right now is just going to act like a wash, which will just fill in all the cracks and crevices. Oh no. So when you do a wash, if it runs where you don't want it, just take a dry brush and let it suck up that little pool where you don't want it. Otherwise it can cause what we call coffee stains, which are essentially little rings or lines that look like they would if you left a coffee cup drip on a table. That's going to require a lot of cleanup later on when she's dry. If I keep messing with it, I'll mess something up. Now, I think I'm almost done with this one. I need to touch up the staff and other leather bits, and then I need to do the belt details. But I think right now I'm gonna touch up all the brown and then work on the rocks. I will need to touch up all the metallics on here later, but I would like to find a silver before I start messing around with metallics on anything. I have a silver, I just need to find it, since it is not immediately in my paint pile. How is everybody doing? I hope things are going well for everyone. We've got about 20 minutes left in the stream. I'm gonna go ahead and do the highlights on the back of her cloak. Her cloak is the same color as the Winter Elf's cloak, which, if you haven't seen it yet, is this mini. So I'm going to add those I don't want to call them edge highlights, but I guess that's kind of what they are. Which they're not really letting me catch the edge of them right now. There we go, that one's letting me catch the edge of it. I'll just go back later and clean up the bits I messed up. Sorry about that. Sometimes I just get so into it, I'll pull the mini right up to my face and just get in the zone, which pulls me off camera. I'm gonna come back to her, my winter elf, and I think I'm gonna take this dark blue that I was painting in the other mini's hair earlier and define the hair just a little bit. Okay, I'm just gonna paint her hair blue, since this is a little more difficult than I thought it'd be. And then I'll go back in and edge highlight with the lighter blue that her hair is right now, once it's dry. Oops. Let me rotate that some. No, don't like that. I'm just gonna erase that as best I can. I will paint over it later. Let's go ahead and paint this staff. I am gonna do this dark auburn shadow red color so it doesn't blend in with the leather wrapped around it. Move my palette out of the way so I don't stick my arm in it. In the next few weeks, I might be able to set things up so I can multi-stream, which basically means I can stream on more than one platform. So I'd be on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch at the same time. So that should be fun. But that depends on a lot of things. Whoops. We are almost out of time, so I'm going to drop my socials and my Discord in the chat. And my schedule. So I hope you have all had fun, or have at least enjoyed hanging out with me. I think I'm gonna call that it for today. So I will see you all next week, Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific, and hope to see you back.